Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. I'm Yoshi Lan, and it is Throwback Thursday once again. Okay, as I stated in my last Throwback Thursday video, I'm going to be talking about my not so distant past. Okay, this is a stroll down memory lane and how I accidentally opened the door to my spiritual journey. Okay, so back in 2016, okay, I was still very not very spiritual, let's just say. Okay. And I had a lot of typical Scorpio traits, actually quite magnified because I'm multiply Scorpio, but it was tempered by my Pisces, because Pisces is my moon sign. So it did give me the ability to relate to everybody and also, temper my anger. Okay, because I had a lot of it back then. And in 2016, when I was living in Hawaii, I was in Waikiki. Okay, so I lived in Waikiki, and there was a point in my life where I started wanting more. Okay, you know how people have this like, man, I wish I had that, I wish I were more this, I wish I were more that. And I got to a point where I was just like, you know what, I don't have to be mediocre. This mediocrity, this life that I have, that I had at the time, I wasn't satisfied with it. So what did I do? What did I do about it? What language did I use? Because the key word here is language. Okay. The language that I started using was what ultimately opened the door to my spirituality. And I was talking to my friends about it, both in California and as well as the ones in Hawaii. And like, you know what? I'm going to transform. So I came up with a really lofty name for it. And I like naming things very like really epic names. Okay, because if you're gonna go big, you go big, right? You go grand. Not like this not this minimal like bare bones kind of thing. Very modest. No, I wasn't about that. And I'm still not about modesty, okay? There's there's accuracy, but modesty, no. That's just the flip side of being extravagant. It's one is trying too hard, the other one is trying to hide. So I'm not about the modesty. And what I ended up saying was, okay, I'm going to start an initiative. Okay, because this whole like prop thing going on, initiative this and prop that, was very big at the time. You might have heard of like Prop 8 and a whole bunch of other props, and well, at least for California people. But in California, there's a lot of like politics going on, and it's ridiculous. The politics is ridiculous. So there's initiative this, prop that, this and that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that for myself. I am going to make an initiative. And so I called it Yoshi's God Transformation Initiative of 2016. Okay. And at the time, my understanding of a God wasn't quite as complete as it was now. I just know it wasn't the Christian God. Okay, because the Christian God is ridiculous. Not any offense to people who believe in that God, the Abrahamic faith, but really he is ridiculous. He doesn't act like an all-knowing, a supreme being. It doesn't make any sense to me. Um, so for me, what I understood as a god was somebody who had exceptional powers and abilities and something. They have that je ne sais quoi that a lot of people want. And so they ended up being elevated or deified to the status of a god. Okay. In India and in Rome, they had this type of concept. Okay. In Rome, somebody who was deified was known as a divus or a diva. Okay. Know that word diva? That's a very common word in English nowadays, but not many people know what it means. It actually means female divinity. That's where the word divine comes from. Okay. It's related. So diva, female version, divus is the male version of a person who has elevated to a status of a god. Okay. In India, they have a word called deva, and that word means shining one. And they have other words too, like blessed being. They don't really have this unreachable or this person on a pedestal, this entity that's on this unreachable pedestal that nobody else can reach. Now, in India, pretty much anybody can be. If you go into the spiritual traditions, not the religious side, because there is also a religious side in India. If you go down the spiritual path, anybody has the potential of becoming like Buddha, becoming a deva or a blessed being, a shining one. Okay, because what does it mean? Shining, enlightenment. You are in light. Therefore, you're shining. Okay, same thing with Jesus. He's depicted as a shining person, somebody who is enlightened. So, what happened was when I started that whole God transformation initiative, things started shifting in my life very drastically. My perception of myself, what I can do. And then part of the goal was actually ascension was part of my goal. And ultimately, that led me to my first spiritual mentor. And she did empowerment coaching. And I was like, empowerment? Oh, empowerment. Yeah. Empowerment. That sounds like something that is on the path toward my ascension, whatever that was, right? I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, but I wanted it. So, the first thing you do is just say it and then you'll figure it out later. Okay. So I decided that I was going to become a god, and the path to becoming a god, because in order to have something, you have to have a plan of action. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. Right? So just wanting to become a god and transforming into a god isn't enough. And if you really dive into like law of attraction stuff and manifestation, they're going to tell you this too. Like the true coaches, it's not just about wanting something. Okay, there's also action involved and also plan of action. How do you get there? Okay, you don't have to know, but just know that there is something that you will do or shift or something in order for you to get what you want, in order to manifest something. Okay, so for me, when I made the God Transformation Initiative of 2016, I thought about it. What would be the path in order to become a God? Well, there's got to be, self improvement, self development, exercise, something like that, becoming more physically fit. Whatever other traits are in line with being a god, somebody who is very wise, who knows a lot of things. And then ultimately, what does that lead to? Ascension. That's what I thought anyway. So I was like, okay, I'm going to reach ascension, whatever that was. And coincidentally, in League of Legends, they came out with a mode called Ascension. So it's like these things that are reminding me like, oh yeah, very interesting. This is reminding me of what I want, where I want to go. And then I started like getting invited to like spiritual stuff. So that was just totally strange for me because I didn't believe in spirituality at that time. I was just humoring my friend who was like very spiritual. She was super spiritual. And now I'm super spiritual, but she was super spiritual, and that was very weird for me and very foreign. I didn't know much about it. I was very well versed in fantasy, but not so much in spiritual texts. Like I could name all the different kinds of demons and monsters and fairies and dwarves and all that stuff and the nine realms. But when it came to like spiritual concepts and wisdom and knowledge, I wasn't very familiar with that. Like this whole concept of healing and being able to do things at a distance. Like, how is that possible? How could you affect something physically from one location and then do something in another location? Scientifically, it sounds weird. It sounds foreign. But in quantum mechanics and other scientific research in the last several decades, they've started demonstrating teleportation and quantum entanglement and all this other stuff. And it's like, oh, you know what? It's actually possible to affect something instantaneously at a distance. And this weirded Einstein out. He called it spooky action at a distance. And he didn't think it was possible, or he thought it was weird, or there had to be something there is something weird going on. And there also had to be an explanation because things just don't happen like that. So now they're starting to understand what entanglement is, and that everything's actually entangled, intrinsically entangled. And there's a very wonderful physicist named Nassim Haramein who talks about the interconnectedness of everything in the whole universe, in all dimensions, in all realities. We have all of that information inside of us. So when you understand this kind of stuff, how all the answers and all the wisdom and everything is inside of you, there you go. It's all inside of us. Everything that's inside the universe, everywhere outside of us, is also inside of us. It's in the very being of our nature. It's within all the protons inside our body. And we have a lot of protons. Okay? We have a lot of protons. I don't know what the number is, but just think about how we have at least 50 trillion cells within our body. And a cell is made of a ton of different compounds and chemicals and molecules, all of which are made of atoms. And depending on the type of atom, it will have a different amount of protons in it. So 50 trillion, there's your baseline. Imagine how many atoms are in a cell. It's a lot. So, man, where am I going with this? Well, language is one of them, right? Because as I started doing my spirituality, I started understanding more about how language affects what you are ready for and what you are going to attract in your life. When I made that decision to become a god, I had no idea that I was opening the door to becoming an enlightened spiritual being. Because the word God has been hugely, hugely corrupted or twisted into something that it is not. Okay, I developed the ability called psychometry. Okay, and psychometry is the ability to look through energy beyond space and time. And I went back in time to take a look at what the energy, the true meaning of a god or goddess was. Okay, back in the day, the word god or goddess was signified a person who has profound wisdom and connectedness. And different people were connected in different ways because the vibration of the earth and the solar system was much lower at that time. It also affects the person's ability to connect. So the gods and goddesses back in the day, they didn't have the full range of abilities or full range of knowledge. And so each of those people ended up being very good at certain things, whether it's war or destruction or clairvoyance, prophesying. That is a particular spiritual ability. So each person had their own fragment, you could say, or puzzle piece that they had access to. And so when they group them together, then you have a collection of powerful abilities. And these are all spiritual abilities. Okay, there's everything is spiritual. So When you take that into account, it's no wonder that people started worshiping them. And back in the day, worshiping was more like admiration. How do we become more like you? So as time went on, the understanding became more twisted. As jealousy and hurt and all this other stuff comes into play, it twists a person's perception. And then eventually one day, this concept of God has totally shifted into something that's unreachable. People do that nowadays. They don't realize it. When people talk about certain actors or celebrities or scientists, whoever the person is, they are put on such a pedestal that it's like unreachable. It's also unrealistic. Most of the time, it's unrealistic because a lot of people have these qualities, or they can achieve this quality, whether they believe it or not. And I'll have another video about belief. Am I going to have another video about belief? Well, in my other channel, I have a series on what belief is and mindsets and all that stuff. So you can take a look at it over there. But pretty much belief is the underlying limitation of what you can become and what you can accomplish. So through my journey, I'll end with this, is that I realized that in order for me to continue toward my ascension and to become godly, holy, right? The word holy means whole, being whole. It has nothing to do with some weird esoteric or mystical knowledge or something that you cannot become. Everybody can become whole. It's just a process of figuring out how to do it. And throughout history, people have had some success, other people not so much. Then other people just went down the rabbit hole and, crazy shit happens. But anybody can become amazing at whatever they want to be, as long as they first destroy all of their beliefs. So this is where the God of destruction comes in. This is wonderful energy in order for us to destroy all of the stuff that is holding us back. Because the only thing that's holding us back is ourself and whatever we believe. Because reality will only give us what we believe. Reality is a mirror of our own beliefs. So that's also why people who are older have a more difficult time changing. That's where this whole phrase comes in. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, which is absolute bullshit. You can. People just don't understand how. Because they don't understand that a person, the further you go throughout your life, the more beliefs that you will suck up or make for yourself. And each belief gives you this false knowing that you know exactly how things will work. This works, that doesn't work. This is good, that's not good. And I like this, I don't like that. Okay? Those are like the basic 6 beliefs that anybody will ever make. And if you keep those are going to block you from any change you want to create in your life. So there you go. Destroy your beliefs so that you can become anything you want to be. In order for you to really manifest your true self, this is it's starting to all come together now. In order for you to become yourself, in order for me to become a god, to become holy, I must first destroy everything that is blocking me, which is my beliefs. Okay, my beliefs, my mindsets that have created stagnation and any sort of resistance or block along my path. Okay, once all of this is out of the way, then we can start making new things. We can start the true path of discovering our true self. Okay, I am discovering my true self. I am manifesting my true self and my soul in this 3-dimensional plane, in this body. Okay, and as you do that, you become more connected. You also become more powerful, Whatever power is to you, it just means potential, your ability to think of something and make it happen. Okay, for increase the likelihood of it happening. Okay, until you really get to that state of holiness and connectedness and all this other stuff, it's not really possible to do magic and other stuff. In the meantime, it's more like conscious manifestation. Okay. All right. So that does it for this Throwback Thursday. Hopefully, this gives you some perspective as to my journey and the stuff that I've gone through. Spirituality, it's a very interesting thing. And back in 2016, I was very not spiritual. I was completely on the, I don't know what side that is. I'm not gonna say left or right side. I was completely in the camp of science. Okay, if you could not test anything, if there was something that you couldn't empirically prove, then it doesn't exist. Okay, that's where I was. Everything was based on logic and rationality and ethics. But now all of those things are just being thrown out the window. The more you add dimension to your spirituality, the more you go outside of these basic paradigms. Because, it's just a simple way for you to navigate through life, but it's not how reality works. Once you start understanding how reality truly works and truly functions, then only then you can transcend these basic paradigms and not be stuck in these structures. This A B type of situation. If A happens, B happens. Okay? This consequence stuff. It's like that's all. That's pretty much what assumptions are. Assumptions and expectations fall under this line. And where do they come from? They come from beliefs. So if you get rid of your beliefs, then your mode of assumptions and expectations will also fall apart, which is a wonderful thing, because assumptions and expectations also control your reality. How many people go into a restaurant or see judge a book by its cover? They've already colored their perception of that particular thing, whether it's good or bad. So a person might go into a restaurant going, man, this place sucks. Who would do that and this and that? And then they get their food. I'm like, see, I told you this place sucks. You've probably heard somebody do that before. Maybe you've done that before, right? That kind of stuff totally happens. And I know I've done that before in like ice cream places or different other things, foods that contain certain things. I've done that before. And so I've discarded all of that. And what is the result of it? I can eat whatever ice cream I want. I can eat whatever food I want now, because all the food that I thought I hated and didn't agree with me is fine now. And part of it is also because of the energy. So doing the inner healing work, the energies of these foods that created a bad taste in my mouth is now gone. So now I actually taste the food for what it is. And as you do your inner healing work, as I have done over these past several years, you will start having a more objective view of reality. Your experience will become more true. In science and psychology, there's this belief that you cannot truly understand or perceive things objectively, which is also bullshit. But because scientists and psychologists believe that, guess what? Their perception is not reliable. So they use external devices in order for them to help analyze and go back to see if their perception is accurate or not. So the more inner healing work you do, your perceptions becomes true. You truly perceive correctly, because when you remove all these beliefs, what you're receiving is no longer colored. Does that make sense? You're taking off your sunglasses or your rose-tinted harlequin glasses, spectacles. Okay, anything that you put on, you will see the world as that. So you destroy all those beliefs. All right. And by doing so, you will also notice that your language will shift too, because the way you speak and the way you talk will also clue you in on what you believe on a particular thing. And if you don't want that to be true anymore, it's time to figure out what's going on there and then shift it to something else. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for joining me again. And please support my channel by subscribing and liking my videos and sharing them with other people. What has your journey been with spirituality? Because everybody has their own journey, and I'm interested to hear what you did or said that you can think of that really opened the door, because you can trace it to a particular thing. It could be something very minor. Okay, it doesn't have to be super grand. For me, it was very grand. Like, I opened the big golden doors, the big golden double palace doors of spirituality. And so that's what I got. And it happened very quickly because I opened huge ass doors. Okay, I was like, I want to become a god. How do I do it? Okay, and the universe started giving me that stuff. I was started being led down this spiritual path, like YouTube videos and all this other stuff. The people that I talked to, they were becoming more spiritual, and they started saying more spiritual things. I started being exposed to more spiritual language, and it was a gradual shift. You know, it didn't happen overnight because I was resisting it. But when I embraced spirituality in 2017 by actually visiting a spiritual shop, which took me half an hour to find. That could be another topic for for my Throwback Thursday, but that's really what did it. Okay, when I went out there and got myself a Moldavite, I didn't just open the doors anymore. I was walking through it. All right. So let me know what you did. You know, what did you do to walk through the doors, or what did you do to open the doors? Because each person goes through a certain point in their life where they open the doors. And it may be something very interesting and very, very egotistic sounding, very grandiose, right? God Transformation Initiative, that's super grandiose. But that's what I did, and that's how I got to where I am now. So if I went back, I wouldn't have changed anything because I wouldn't have been led down this path. So what is it for you? You know, write it down in the comments. I'm interested to know what your spiritual journey was like. And other people are most likely interested too. All right. Namaskara. I'll see you guys around. Have a great day. And I hope you guys are still enjoying the Mercury retrograde. We're just past the halfway point. Okay. So keep using the energy so that you can continue your inner healing work and release some of this stuff that has been blocking you too. Right now is a very good time to be working on your beliefs and mindsets that have stagnated your life. All right. See you guys around.